Welcome back to another episode of the Sarasota County Schools In Tune podcast. I'm Chris Parento, your host for today's episode. On today's episode, we're talking about a very important topic, school safety. Today, I'm joined by our new Chief of Police here at Sarasota County Schools, Chief Tim Enos. Chief, thank you so much for being here today.
I greatly appreciate this. This is a topic that is really, really close to my heart, and the majority of my 32 years in law enforcement have been about keeping kids safe.
Chief Enos, from your perspective, what does the current landscape of school safety in Florida look like, and how has it kind of evolved over the last 5 or 10 years?
Florida is very, very proactive in trying to make sure that we stay on top of a lot of different things. So as the landscape continues, there's always going to be change as it relates to school safety and security, because we're always going to try to, especially in Florida, get ahead of things. You know, Florida, because of what happened here, we by far lead all of the states in how we approach school safety. And I know the commitment from law enforcement, teachers, staff, and communities is that's always their priority, is making sure that their kids are safe when they go and they attend school. So you'll see pushes like on the mental health assessment. You'll see behavioral threat assessments. You'll see different procedures that will be developed, again, trying to stay ahead of somebody that may want to do harm to our students or to our staff. So the landscape is always changing, but I can tell from Florida, I can tell you that in Florida is that we're always ahead of the curve.
How did that unfortunate tragedy at Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School really force law enforcement to think differently about school safety than had historically been done?
That we as law enforcement officers had to change our tactics, that we can no longer sit on a perimeter and wait before we went in. So what really has happened at Stoneman Douglas due to that tragedy is it's really opened up the eyes of law enforcement in that we have to have a single shooter active response protocol, train our officers to go directly to the threat, because as that time keeps ticking, we know that students and faculty could be hurt or killed during that time period. So we need to make sure that because of what happened, it makes everybody look and assess what are their agencies doing, what are we doing about school safety, what school districts doing in regard to school safety. Again, because what will ultimately come back to, it's the speed of the lockdown that ultimately saves kids' lives. And that's why you have drills. That's why you have a lot of proactive school districts that are continuing to do like fensive single point access, all these different things, again, to try to eliminate or prevent that next shooting to happen in their community.
When most people think about school police and school resource officers, they think of them strictly as security for the building, but there's so much more than that on our campuses. Can you talk to us about what the team of SROs we have do on a daily basis in our schools?
Well, what we do on a daily basis is that we develop relationships with students so that students, as well as faculty, as well as community members, will come forward to let us know when a student is in crisis. It could be a mental health crisis. It could be homelessness. It could be something that's going on within their families that they need to talk to somebody. It could be about a person who's posting inappropriate images online. It could be inappropriate relationships. So what our main focus as being school police officers is that we're very, very targeted in on making sure we do everything to the best practices that have to do with kids. So at the elementary level, you'll see that we teach. We teach officer's job. We teach stranger danger. We teach bicycle safety. We teach helmet safety. We have LEAD, which is Law Enforcement Against Drugs, which is what replaced in Sarasota County the DARE program. So in middle school, it then becomes a little bit more counseling, because as kids are becoming mature, they have a little bit more conflict. So it's a little bit more about counseling, behavioral threat. What are we doing? How can we do these things? How can we have an impact with them? And then when you get to high school, when kids have mobility, obviously they do more adult things, and so you see more law enforcement actions occur.
I know you've talked at length about social media and how social media can be both a tool and a challenge. How do you monitor and respond to threats and other comments that happen on social media that could put student safety at risk?
As a parent, we need to be monitoring children's social media, because if we look at that, every single terrible tragedy that's happened is somebody knew before it happened, as many of the kids, the way they're doing the reporting mechanism is they're out on social media. I mean, you just look at the last thing. You hear about Reddit. You hear about, all these other off-center chat boards where people are saying they're going to do terrible events. It's up to the parents to really to be able to monitor, because as a school police officer, as a community, as a staff, we don't have the tools or the resources to be able to get into people's accounts. Now, through the school district, they have numbers that are associated with them as identity. Those sites are restricted at the schools, but that's only a part of their day. It really comes back to the bigger pieces when they're at home. And when they're at home, as a parent, it again is about education. If you wait and you decide to talk to your kids about being safe on social media till they're 16 years old, that's already way, way, way late, because we see students that are 7 years old that have cell phones that they're bringing them to schools. So we already know they're going to be on those things. So how it really relates is that we need the community support to be able to have that trust. And a lot of it is developed between the parent and the child, that if they see something that they feel comfortable enough to bring it forward to the parent, send it to the school, send it to a trusted school resource officer, a law enforcement, fireman, somebody within the community, so that we can take action. But social media, without question, if you say, well, what's the biggest change in the last 10 years, 20 years? Without any hesitation, I would tell you social media.
We use Fortify Florida as an anonymous reporting tool for students or families to report any of those potential threats or see something, say something type of things that you talked about. When we receive one of those tips through Fortify Florida, what happens?
So when we receive a tip, it's set up that tip comes into the Consolidated Communications Center at the Sheriff's Office, who does all the dispatching for all the municipalities. They're going to get the tip, which is also going to go to the location of the school, to what's in the jurisdiction. It's going to come to the school police department. It's going to come to the school staff and administration. And when we get that tip, it's also as part of that, it goes to what's called the Joint Terrorism Task Force. And the JTTF is a task force that is run by the FBI, which is here with a location in Sarasota. All the municipalities, the sheriff, everybody has intel people on there, which are people that collect intelligence. When we get that tip, that is definitely going to be vetted out, and we're going to find out the person that does it. And when we find that out, it's zero tolerance, and that person is going to be charged and they're going to go to jail, because the impact to the community is so detrimental that it's not okay to have that. It's not okay to joke about that. But those are the tips that we're definitely going to investigate on top of everything, that we're going to make sure we get down to it, because we're going to make sure every single one, we do everything we can do in order to make sure that we take care of the problem. So I also want to know is that it's the person who provides the tip, that's not who we're looking for. That person, we want them to know that anything that they send us is going to be investigated to the full extent of the law. That Fortify Florida is anonymous, but if it comes through any other social media, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, it comes through Reddit, any of the other chat boards, that we're going to find that person, zero tolerance, they're going to be arrested, they're going to go to jail, and they're going to have the consequences, because it's no longer okay that kids are just kids and we give them a pass, because it's so detrimental to the community, the impact at the school, the teachers. It's something so significant that we're going to find out who that person is.
Can you talk a little bit about the relationship and the collaboration that has to happen with other local law enforcement agencies to ensure that schools are safe on a daily basis?
Well, I can tell you this, that we are so fortunate that we have the collaboration of our municipalities and the sheriff here in Sarasota County. One of the things I can tell you is without question is that their commitment to our kids and to our schools and to doing the right things and to making sure that our kids safe is absolutely incredible. That is regarding to sharing of information, and we have sharing of information between each other. That's going to events and on being on the same page as reference to how are we going to be able to provide safety to keep kids safe, whether it's a football game or it's a carnival or it's a book fair, or it could be an event in the community when you do National Night Out, victims awareness. You'll always see law enforcement out there with giveaways and being able to talk to people, because again, it's about the commitment and the bond. And I can just tell you is that there's the success of your community is going to come down to the partners. And I can tell you here is that I'm very, very blessed, and we are that the chiefs and the sheriff, they're personal friends of mine. And I know that if we ever need anything, they've given me 100% their support, that they will do whatever it takes, because I know that at the end of the day, our children is our most precious resource, and they want to give everybody the most opportunity that they can to succeed. And living in Sarasota County, we have an unbelievable support system, and the support that they give to the schools and our police department is, I can't even sum it up. It's something that you can only be effective with those partnerships, because nobody should be on the island themselves, because you can't effectively do that.
We all know that AI is sort of changing how the world operates, and in some ways that's a benefit for school safety, because there are AI-based tools that we can use for weapons detection systems and things like that. But in other ways, it can be a risk of what AI can do these days. Can you talk about those emerging trends with AI and how that does impact school safety?
We have technologies that are on our campus that we're using just for that. And another big AI piece that's coming on is the uses of drones. Is to be able that drones have AI technology with their cameras, that they're able to place in this area to a thing on big events, where they're going to be able to identify anybody that may be suspicious or carrying something or looking. Because again, as I said earlier, it's about the speed you can lock down and evacuate or bring people in. That's really what you're shooting for. So you want the biggest advantage. So we use many of those programs. People would not know we're doing those things, but it's really as a layered approach to school safety, which it has to be in order to be effective.
Chief Enos, thank you again for joining us for this very important conversation around school safety. And thank you to all of you for listening to this episode. For more information about school safety and what we're doing here at Sarasota County Schools, be sure to check out the October edition of the Sarasota County Schools In Touch newsletter. That will be coming out on October 1st. We hope you all will join us again for the next episode of the Sarasota County Schools In Tune podcast.